In today's complex business environment, leaders need not only to be prepared for the worst, but also to build their resilience. At The Human Factor, Corporate Integrity Matters' Sonja Stirnimann invites top executives, board members, and industry experts to reflect and talk about the realities of corporate integrity, risk, and ethical leadership. As an international governance authority, independent director, and entrepreneur, she understands the challenges leaders face. Integrity and ethical leadership are not just principles. They build resilience, enhance reputation, and create strategic competitive advantage for organizations and for individuals.
Welcome to the Human Factor Corporate Integrity Matters. I'm your host, Sonja Stirnimann, and this podcast is a space where we go beneath the surface, where we examine not only governance failures, but the conditions that allow them to unfold. Because in my experience, risk doesn't only emerge through scandal or cyber attacks. It often begins with something far quieter, much more subtle, something that's hard to name, but deeply dangerous. Today's episode is about governance fatigue. Let's start with what it is not. Governance fatigue is not laziness. It's not apathy. It's not incompetence. It is what happens when attention is spread too thin, oversight becomes routine, and decisions are made out of compliance, not conviction. Over time, even the most seasoned leaders, especially the most seasoned leaders, fall into it. Because they have earned the right to trust systems, to rely on dashboards, to skim what used to be read carefully. But here's the problem. Every system erodes over time if it's not actively questioned. Governance fatigue is a slow, dangerous decline in strategic sharpness. It is when agenda efficiency quietly replaces oversight depth. Let's make that tangible. Here's what governance fatigue looks like in action. Board agendas packed with updates but minimal time for forward-looking dialogue. Risk reports acknowledged but not deeply explored, and audit committees focusing on formal compliance, not behavioral red flags. Strategic questions asked in theory but not followed up in reality. I have witnessed dynamics in boardrooms where the entire meeting is procedurally perfect but strategically hollow. And in many cases, no one in the room feels it until something breaks. Because the structure is intact, the process is sound, but the energy, the tension, the intellectual friction, it's gone. Let me give you a real example, anonymized case from my work as a sparring partner to an executive board. The company was successful, profitable, no regulatory concerns. But then, a mid-level compliance issue emerged. A revenue recognition policy had been applied inconsistently across regions. No fraud, no ill intent, but also no recent review. It hadn't been discussed in detail for over 18 months. Because the dashboard said all green. Because no one flagged it. Because other topics felt more urgent. When we traced it back, the issue started after a board member who had championed financial scrutiny stepped down. And his successor, less focused, less assertive, less experienced, more agreeable. That one change created a vigilance vacuum. No one noticed until shareholders did. This is governance fatigue. It's not a scandal, it's a slow fade of tension that used to sharpen the room. And also in 2025 and beyond, we are in an area of visible compliance and invisible risks. Boards are often over-meeting, executives are under-reflecting, and external scrutiny is intensifying, not diminishing. In this climate, fatigue is not an inconvenience, it's a liability. Because when integrity becomes routine, it ceases to be protected. Leadership requires constant calibration, and governance fatigue is not just a mental state, it's a strategic vulnerability. Let's now get practical. Here are 4 actions I use with boards and executive teams when fatigue is suspected. Rethink agenda efficiency. Prioritize friction. Ask what didn't make it to the agenda and why. Introduce integrity pauses. At the end of every decision cycle, ask, what assumptions are we now no longer testing? Audit questions, not answers. Is your team asking fewer hard questions than 6 months ago? Challenge consensus. Uniform agreement is not a sign of alignment. Sometimes it's a symptom of fatigue. And here's what I want to leave with you. As a board member, as a CEO, as a leader, you are the barometer. The team feels your presence or your absence, your curiosity or your detachment, your commitment or your fatigue. 1 quiet month may not matter, but 3 months of disconnection. That's how drift begins. That's how governance culture weakens without breaking. Until next shockwave comes. So let me ask you, where have you become comfortable? Which decision no longer feels worthy of your full attention, but probably should? Where has your team mistaken calm for clarity? Governance fatigue is not a failing. It's a signal, it's a sign to pause, reset, and recommit. If this episode struck a chord, send it to a peer. Perhaps one who carries more than they show. And if you are ready to recalibrate your oversight rhythm, let's talk. So until next time, stay aware, stay focused, and as always, stay human and sometimes also pause.